Good evening, America. Tonight, I'm going to address the great Jewish split, American Judaism's view on Israel and anti-Semitism. And the 4 questions I'm going to be addressing were addressed to me right here on TikTok. So I didn't make them up, and they're not coming from anywhere else. And I would like people to stay on to hear answers to the questions I keep getting asked. Are you a Zionist? That pops up in the notes all the time. Now, I don't know what answer or what kind of an answer the person asking would like, because usually they're gone and they don't listen to me. But there's a problem, because when you're asked, are you a Zionist, that means 3 totally different things, depending on who's asking, not on the responder. You see, to one person, it just means Jews should have a country. And to another person, it becomes a derogatory code word for Jew, a slur, wearing a disguise, saying, oh, no, it's Zionism, it's Zionists I don't like, nothing about Jews. No, that's it. It's a code word. But in between those 2 extremes, there's a real, honest argument going on in the Jewish community, and it's been going on for hundreds of years. What does Zionist mean anymore? Where do American Jews actually stand? Because it's not in any one place. Should there be a Jewish country at all? And does Judaism even need Israel to survive? Well, let's take a look. Let's begin with a little bit of history here. Because the word itself, half the fights online aren't about Israel. They're about what the word means. A guy named Herzl, Theodor Herzl, started the modern idea over 100 years ago. Jews had been kicked out of, killed, pushed around for centuries, with nowhere safe to land. So they needed their own country. The same way, basically, other people in the world eventually got one country. The unification of Germany, the unification of Italy, France, England. There should be a Kurdistan. There should be a Palestine. There should be Armenia. There are plenty of places that need a safe homeland that's historical. Not that we should send Armenians to Africa, or that we should send people, the Kurds, that we should send them to South America. No, they have an ancestral home. And so, that was the original meaning of Zionist. I think Jews deserve a homeland. That was it. I think Kurds deserve a homeland. I think Armenians deserve a homeland. Same thing. But by that definition, most Jews in the known universe are Zionists. And so are a lot of Christians as well. Simple statement, nothing politically involved. But somewhere along the way, the word picked up a second meaning. Some people use Zionist to criticize how that country was built and how it treats Palestinians. That's a real political opinion. And plenty of Jews hold it too. But some people took it even further and started using Zionist as a stand-in. Remember I mentioned this? As a slur for Jew, same old hatred. They just picked a new word, kind of hiding behind it. Zionist-controlled media is just the Jews control the media. He's wearing glasses, a nose, and a mustache. It's a disguise. So now you get 4 different people using the same word to mean 4 different things. And nobody stops to ask, which one are you arguing with? Which word are you using? What is your meaning? What is your definition? That's the mess we're in. And when people ask me, I would prefer, instead of starting by saying, are you a Zionist, tell me, which of these 4 positions are you? Are you using it to be derogatory, to insult me? Are you using it to say Should the Jewish people have a homeland like Armenians or Kurds? Okay? Or something else. That way I could answer it. I would rather refer to Jews as Hebrews. I kind of like that idea. Hebrew, from across the river. Ivrim, those people that come from the other side of the river. I think that's kind of nice. I'd like to use the word Hebrew for myself instead of saying I'm Jewish, but I'm not sure the response. I did try it, by the way. Jews are really split on the question. Most American Jews feel a connection to Israel. That's true. It's not forced. It's not fake. It's tied up with family, with history, with the Holocaust happening way before the country Israel ever existed. But feeling connected isn't the same as agreeing on everything. Some Jews think Israel is basically a religious miracle unfolding in real time. Some support Israel just because every people deserves a safe homeland. No religious meaning intended. Some ultra-religious Jews actually oppose Israel existing at all on religious grounds and have for hundreds of years. And that may surprise you, since this is the first time you probably heard it. And there's a whole younger generation of American Jews who are furious about how Palestinians are treated, but they still call themselves Zionists. Now you see what I'm getting at? The use of the term. Even my own branch of Judaism, Reform Judaism, used to officially oppose Israel existing for decades before flipping after the Holocaust. So even Jews are pro-Israel. It isn't some ancient, unchanging fact. It's shifting. It's still shifting. Now, everyone likes to cut to the chase, the bottom line. There is no one Jewish opinion on this. Anyone who tells you there is, on either side, is selling you something. It just isn't true. Now, should a Jewish country even exist? I find most Jews and a lot of non-Jews are scared to say that out loud. I'm saying it out loud. I'm a rabbi. Should there be a Jewish country at all? The strongest case for yes, Jews lived in that land thousands of years ago, got kicked out, went back, stayed, got massacred, trusted someone else to protect them. Everything went wrong, culminating in the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were murdered. Millions of Christians were murdered. The entire gypsy population was eliminated. Priests, nuns, murdered, put in the ovens. There's a lot of questions about Pope Pius and why he didn't speak out or do more. And as you study, you realized he was trying to protect Roman Catholics, priests, and nuns who were being killed along with the Jews. He was in a very difficult position. So it wasn't a matter of him just speaking out. He was caught in a true dilemma. And after the Holocaust, the world refused to take in Jewish refugees. The argument is simple. If you don't control your own safety, eventually, someone else decides you don't deserve any. And nearly every other group that wanted a country in the last 100 years, almost all of them got one. That's why I bring up the Kurds. That's why I bring up the Armenians. That's why I bring up a Palestinian population not tied to terrorism, not tied to Hamas, not tied to Hezbollah. Okay? So why should Jews be told no? Now, the strongest case for no, or at least for serious doubt, Judaism survived 2,000 years without a country. Everything that makes Judaism what it is the prayers, the laws, our traditions, was built without a state. It was built in exile all over the world. So tying Jewish survival to one government feels backward to me and a break from the past. And there's a little bit harder point. Building that country in 1948 meant hundreds and thousands of Palestinians lost their lives. You can't just wave that away because of what Jews went through. You can't use the Holocaust as an excuse for displacing a population. And some people argue one people's safety cannot be bought with another people's home. Huh? And there's a totally different no that has nothing to do with Palestinians or politics or who had the land first. Some ultra-Orthodox Jews believe only the Messiah is allowed to bring the Jewish people back to power. And doing it themselves, even with good intentions, is the wrong move religiously. I'm not going to pretend that this argument has a clean winner, because it doesn't. What matters is this. Both sides are Jews, arguing in good faith about what actually keeps their own people safe and true to their own values. This isn't Jews versus enemies. It's family arguing at the table. And here in the United States, we saw what happened when we had a civil war and brother fought brother. Now, I hinted at the next before. If Israel disappeared tomorrow, would Judaism itself survive? Now, the case for yes depends on Israel. Almost half of all Jews in the known universe live in the land of Israel. Hebrew went from basically a dead prayer language to something people speak in the grocery store. That's an incredible comeback. For a lot of Jews, Israel is the one place that will never turn them away, no matter what happens anywhere else in the world. The case for no, it doesn't need a country. I already said that. Judaism already proved it can survive without a country for 2,000 years. Everything that makes Judaism Judaism was built in that stretch, with zero state, zero army, zero borders. If your religion's survival depends entirely on one government staying safe and stable, that's a very risky position. That's a riskier position than the one Jews have held for most of history. Now, my answer? Israel has made Jewish life bigger and richer than it would have been otherwise. And Judaism does not need a country to survive because it already has proved that for 40 times longer than the country has been around, we've had Judaism. So both things are true. You don't have to pick. And when people ask me about am I a Zionist and they don't tell me where they're coming from, my answer is I'm a social, cultural Zionist. Achad Ha'am fought this at the Zionist conventions and lost to the political Zionists. And it's a position I just stayed. Judaism doesn't need a country to survive. It's already proved that we can. But both things are true. You don't have to pick. Okay. And this is what's troubling to me as a rabbi. And I've done TikToks on this. It's on my YouTube channel, The Rabbi and I, on my podcast, The Rabbi and I, and my podcast, The Wisdom of Rabbi Block. Since Israel is full of Jews, does it actually act Jewishly? Do its policies match Jewish values? Well, the case for yes, Israel has a free press, courts that have ruled against its own government, real elections, Arab and Druze citizens who sit and vote in Parliament and on the Supreme Court. Now, none of that was guaranteed. And people defending Israel say, of course, it's not perfect. It's a parliamentary system, which it got from Great Britain. And we know the problems with a parliamentary system that England has. I forgot my kippah. Thank you. Someone just reminded me. I was doing so much rehearsing. And now someone just asked the question about, do I support Palestine? I support a free and independent Palestine that recognizes the right of Israel to exist, just like Israel would recognize its right to exist. And it wouldn't have missiles on its borders aimed at Israel, no more than Canada and Mexico have missiles aimed at the United States. Or Egypt doesn't. So, yeah, those would be the terms. Yeah, how does a rabbi forget his kippah? I just came out of the shower, I set everything up, and that's a lesson in rushing to do things and making sure the camera looks good and the lighting looks good and the sound looks good. Hey, I'm only human. And Israel's been fighting for its life since day one. And no country not just under a threat, no country is flawless. Judging Israel by a stricter standard than every other country is kind of not just unfair, not just unjust, it's unreasonable. Look at what's going on in the African nations. I don't hear a lot of your questions about the rape, the pillaging, and the killing that's going on. Or I don't hear you talking about Haiti. There's lots of places that are imperfect, that there are problems. So, not reasonable. Now, the case for no. A lot of Israeli Jews themselves point to decades of military control over Palestinian lands, settlements built on lands that isn't theirs, and two different sets of rules for two different groups of people. I'm appalled at what my co-religionists are doing in the territories in the West Bank. And they're taking land away, and the Israeli government is a blind eye. Jewish tradition is loud and clear about not opposing people and remembering what it's like to be a stranger. These policies fall very, very short. But here's the important part. This isn't outsiders attacking Jews. Some of the loudest critics of Israel are Israeli Jews themselves, using their own religion's language to make the case. And it's the Israeli newspapers, the articles, that again, what I've done on TikTok, what I've done on The Rabbi and I, what I've done on my podcasts, where I've held Israel to task for what it's doing in the West Bank, for the way it's treating Palestinians, the way it's treating the Druze, where it's treating a lot of other people. So this is a family fight using families' values on both sides. Those are the four questions that I've been asked over and over again. Now, someone just said, what am I going to do about it besides talking? Words, like arrows, once they're set forth, you can't recall them. So the more voices that put arrows in the air, I'm 80 years old, I'm an American citizen, and I'm putting this out there on my podcasts, on the Rabbi and I YouTube, and on TikTok. And my goal is, don't put down talking. Someone will listen and hear, younger, having other contacts, having other connections, and will say, wait a minute, I'm joining this peace organization. I'm going to join this organization. That's how Mothers Against Driving got started, purely by a group of mothers getting together and saying, there's been enough killing because of drunk drivers. What are we going to do about it? And they talked. They created chapters. And so that's what's happening here. And the Palestinians don't have to suffer because of what Germans did to the Jews, or what the world didn't take Jews in and put them in displacement camps, DP camps. That you're phrasing it in a way that Well, let me ask whoever asked that question. Have you stopped beating your partner? Just answer yes or no, please. So if you really would like me to answer that, you have to rephrase your question. Besides, I already answered it early on. Where were you? Yeah, someone said that talking alone is never enough. But, if you look at the Russian Revolution, what started it? Some journals and some books. And then some people read them and said, we have to take action. So you're absolutely right. But it begins with a rabbi saying, I don't agree with Israeli politics. Judaism has survived thousands of years without a country. We will survive thousands of years after. It's a nice embellishment. It helps. It does a lot of positive things. But I don't buy into that argument. I don't approve of Israeli politics. But I'm not Israeli. I'm American. And I don't agree with a lot of American politics. And British politics, needless to say. So, you're right, history has proven somebody has to do something. But if you look, what started the American Revolution? Handouts, small newspapers, people going throughout the colonies talking about it. And then it reached quantum mass. So, that's my contribution as an 80-year-old rabbi. Yes, I'm an American rabbi. I'm responding to the questions. And I've talked more about Jesus. Someone just asked me, born a Jew, died a Jew, studied with Ramban Gamliel. His teachings, neat teachings. Keep in mind that, and we will have a chance to do this, no, I believe both Jesus and Muhammad were prophets. They were speaking God's word. It was individuals who came later. The Christianity most of you practice is through Paul. Check it out. See what Jesus actually taught, not what Paul said he taught, and not what the Council of Nicaea said. And if we go back to the teachings of Muhammad, a prophet from God, speaking the word. And unfortunately, both the words of Jesus and the words of Muhammad, people twisted for their own ends. So he said, why do you reject the Quran? I didn't say I rejected the Quran. So you, son of Abraham, you're asking that question again. Son of Avraham, have you stopped beating your partner yet? Answer yes or no. You're phrasing the question to get the answer you want, rather than, why don't you co-host with me next Wednesday, son of Abraham? RabbiBlock@hotmail.com. Guarantee you'll co-host with me. We'll meet in my Zoom room, and we'll talk about, we have to limit because we only have 30 minutes, what we want to focus on and what we want to do it. Well, what's a Zionist? Depends on who's talking. And that confusion gets used by people on both extremes. Where do Jews stand? Everywhere. And it's always been that way. Should a Jewish country exist? Good people argue both sides, for good, real reasons. Does Judaism need Israel to survive? No. But Israel changed what's possible for Jewish life. If you remember one thing about what you're watching and listening, disagreeing about Israel doesn't make you a bad Jew. And supporting Israel doesn't make you responsible for everything its government does. The people yelling any criticism is anti-Semitism and the people yelling any support is evil are both flattening the conversation, as some of your questions are. And Jews have been having this conversation for hundreds of years. You can always write. And I'm looking forward to Son of Abraham co-hosting with me next Wednesday night. What the state of Israel has done to Gaza is a shanda, a disgrace to Judaism. And I would also like you to email me your questions. It's easier for me because as soon as I'm done, I try to write some things down. Yeah, we're brothers. And I did, Son of Abraham, go to my YouTube channel, The Rabbi and I, and go to my podcast, The Rabbi and I, and the podcast, The Wisdom of Rabbi Block. And particularly The Rabbi and I YouTube did a whole series on Islam and the Quran and Judaism and Islam and being brothers. Answer your questions, but please, I really would like to have you co-host with me, okay? You'll write me and we'll meet in my Zoom room. I want to thank all of you for watching this evening, and I do take out the audio and make this a podcast, and thank all of you who have been listening. And Islam 5 prayers a day, Judaism 3 prayers a day. Same thing. Same thing. And I do not fast during Ramadan. Each one of us has to choose a path or a way that resonates. Doesn't mean one is better. Doesn't mean one's superior. Just different. Long sleeve, short sleeves. Different. Beard, mustache. No mustache, no beard. So I'm going to say good night.